Today is all about Celtic captains. And yes, I'm sitting with an old captain's top on and a captain's armband. Yes, and this captain's armband was donated to the channel and it has Neil Lennon's signature on it. This was Neil Lennon's armband. And why is that so special? Well, I'll put that up there for safekeeping. Anyone that knows the channel knows that the very first video, Celtic related video that I did on this channel, was Neil Lennon's step out the doorstep the first day he was Celtic manager. And I was there and I took my daughters along. We were staying in Dunfermline at the time. We knew that Celtic were about to announce Neil Lennon as manager. And we thought we'll go along to the park. And there was no more than 100 people, maximum outside Celtic Park that day. And I videoed it, and I'm sure I actually got my daughters to do the videoing. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But you can actually hear my daughters in the background. And that day, I asked Neil Lennon a question. I asked him who his first signing was going to be. And this video is all about Celtic captains. And go and watch that video if you haven't watched it. But the reason I want to talk about Neil Lennon and the reason that I'm asking for your help and is because Neil Lennon has a massive part to play in this channel in the early years. From that video, from the day that he put down the league trophy in front of the corner, right in front of us, and it was an amazing time to be a Celtic fan. And I never thought for 1 minute that I would end up doing this on a daily basis back in 2010. It was the furthest thing. I mean, I had way bigger plans back then, and this was the furthest thing from my mind. And it's amazing how life, and especially on this day, the 25th of September 2024, because it was on this day when no one could get to the football that me and the missus decided to up sticks and move to Spain. We'd had enough of the UK, but that's another story. Neil Lennon had a massive part to play in this channel, and without him and that first ever upload, this might have never been a Celtic channel at all. And Neil Lennon yesterday was announced that he is going to take part in the Celtic Foundation's Camino Trek de Santiago here in Spain. And I think it's a absolutely fantastic thing for an ex-Celtic manager to do. It's Neil Lennon giving back to Celtic and Celtic fans and helping the foundation in any way he can. And I want to help Neil Lennon. And so many of you did last night from the channel. So many people did. Neil Lennon says, I will join the group of supporters from the Celtic FC Foundation to trek the final 116 kilometres of the famous Camino de Santiago pilgrimage route over 5 days. The trek will cross the rolling green landscapes of rural Galicia, discover local traditions, enjoy the unique atmosphere. I don't know about unique atmosphere, but starting anyway, they'll take in villages, forests, rural countryside, visiting many picturesque churches along the way. And I can confirm that Spain has an abundance of absolutely beautiful churches. You go to the smallest towns in Spain and you go into the churches and they're laden with gold inside and just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Any donation, the final destination is the magical Santiago Old Town, a wonderful UNESCO World Heritage Site and home to a stunning cathedral. Any donation would be greatly appreciated and will make a massive difference to those who need the foundation's help. The foundation does some fantastic work behind the scenes, and it does a lot of work that people don't know about, and it gives a lot of people help, and it doesn't get enough publication if by the Celtic wider media, if you ask me, the fan media particularly. So I take it upon myself last night when I seen that Neil Lennon had done this yesterday afternoon. I thought, you know what, there'd be no better way for me to help Neil at this point, and is to publicise it. And we got off to a great start last night, and I wanted people to mention that they heard about it through this channel, and quite a few people did. They jumped onto it and they made massive donations, absolutely massive donations last night. And his target was £1,000. And currently we've got them up to 7,079, and there's also 1,000 in gifted, £1,680 50 in gifted. I want us to try and get Neil Lennon up to £10,000. People jump in their pockets and help the Green Brigade get the money for the tifos. I think that Neil Lennon's doing an absolutely fantastic thing, giving up his time to do this with Celtic. And there's not many managers, there's not many ex-players that go out their way to do such things. A lot of players, they go into the after-dinner circuit and they go to Celtic supporters clubs evenings, and they get paid for their time and everything, and they tell their stories and that. But they're getting paid for it. Ex-managers and players can go into TV and earn a living that way, but this is Neil Lennon doing something absolutely fantastic as far as I am concerned. So I'll leave the link in the bottom of this video for Neil's Just Giving page. I'll leave a link to that, and I want, if you don't have any money to pay to it, pass it on. Pass this video on so that people can see it, and we can try and get Neil up to 10,000. I think that would be a fantastic effort by everybody concerned, everybody that watches the channel, and thank you to everyone. Thank you to the 19,020 subscribers that we have. If we can pass that on, if everyone that's subscribed to this channel was to pay even just £1, it would be fantastic. Just £1. Could you imagine that? That would be fantastic. But I know that we're not going to get 19,000 people watching this video. Pass the video on so that we can get as many people as possible. I'd be really, really grateful to you if you managed to do that for me this morning. Now on to the current Celtic captain, Callum McGregor. Yes, Callum McGregor has been absolutely fantastic since he stepped up to the mark from the previous captain, Scott Brown, who we'll talk about in just a minute or two. But Callum McGregor is under no illusions that at some point his career will come to a conclusion as Celtic captain, as he decides to retire in a good few years' time. But the same happened with Scott Brown, and everyone started speaking about who would be the next Celtic captain. There was no one else at Celtic that could have walked into Scott Brown's boots. No one else was more well placed with the history of Celtic and the fact that he came through the ranks, and it's just been a fantastic servant to the club, and he was born to be Celtic captain, was Callum McGregor. But people are already discussing who will one day take over the role from Callum McGregor, and people have been throwing the names of like Alistair Johnson. Alistair Johnson, could he be a Celtic captain? Will Alistair Johnson be at Celtic long enough to be a Celtic captain? Because let's face it, when you're a Celtic captain, you tend not to leave the club in any too much of a hurry. Alistair Johnson's a player that could ultimately have the world at his feet. He's a fantastic international player for Canada. He can do it at the Champions League level, and there's nothing to say that he couldn't leave Celtic for a fantastic financial fee and move on to bigger and better paydays. I'm not going to say bigger clubs because there is no bigger club than Celtic as far as we're concerned. But he could move on to a bigger club and triple his wages quite easily. And it wouldn't surprise me if some of the bigger clubs in Europe took notice of the one and only Alistair Johnson this year. Another name that's been thrown into the ring as potential future Celtic captain is Mr. I've got an injured big toe, Cameron Carter-Vickers. And if you've missed out the hilarity on the lives the last couple of nights with one of our fantastic channel members and subscribers had a bit of a fetish for Cameron Carter-Vickers' feet. Don't ask, go and watch the live. But Cameron Carter-Vickers has been thrown into the hat also as a future. Will the American stay at Celtic long enough? He did sign a new 5-year deal last year. He seems happy enough at Celtic. But could he be the next captain? I think people talking about who's going to be the next captain just now is a bit disrespectful to Calmac. Let Calmac do his job, and you never know. These players might not even be here the time that Calmac decides to hang up his boots, especially the way that the modern game goes. There's generally about a 4-year period maximum that a player can stay at a club in the modern day football. Cameron Carter-Vickers is getting close to that. So let's just enjoy out of the player where we can. And let's not get too... I mean, it's great for talking about on the bus, going to games. It's great for talking about in the pub. but let's just enjoy Calmack and everything that he brings to the game instead of wishing him away and his football career away. Cameron and Alistair Johnson know that Calmack is Celtic through and through. Calmack has still got a lot to achieve in the game, and he will say that himself. He will say it's all about taking one step at a time, and he's the one that's got the armband just now, although I've got Neil Lennon's one. I think that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And a big shout out to John, who donated that to the channel. Absolutely fantastic. But anyway, another Celtic captain that is making the news last night, and we spoke about him a lot on the live last night, is the one and only living legend that is Scott Brown. And we were all kind of thinking that Scott Brown maybe wouldn't take the St Johnstone job. It's turned out last night that the ex-Celtic skipper is interested in the St Johnstone job. And could Scott Brown be the St Johnstone manager against Celtic this weekend? All about Celtic captains today. Scott Brown last night emerged as one of the front runners for the St Johnstone job after they punted Craig Levein after only 5 games into the league. He's the second manager to be sacked. Now, he was the first one, wasn't he? And then it was, he was the first one to get punted. But anyway, it turns out that Scott Brown is interested in speaking to them. But I've got a kind of word of warning for Scott, because the American guy that's just bought over St Johnstone is having to step down as chairman. Unfortunately, he's got cancer. He's got cancer of the neck and the head. Adam Webb last week revealed that he's going to step away from the chairmanship of the club as he battles cancer, which is really unfortunate. And we do hope that he manages to. He's in chemotherapy and radiation after being diagnosed with head and neck cancer. And I don't want to be too doom and gloom, but my dad's best mate had neck cancer, and it didn't end particularly well. Not the way that we kind of hoped, but it has no implications on Scott Brown going there, but just going by what happened to him at Fleetwood, I think he needs a bit of stability. But if he really wants the job, he did join Ayr United. Was it January, February time? Can't remember. It was back then. But I thought getting his team, if he could get promotion with his team, would that not be a bigger success than joining St Johnstone? And okay, he's getting top level management experience, and that's ultimately what he wants. But I thought maybe working your way up the ranks, winning the league, even though they're 2 games in front of Falkirk, winning the league or getting promotion with a team would be better on your CV than just surviving in the SPFL. Tell me what you think in the comments on that. And I mean, I'm all for Bruni and improving his career prospects, but he'll not move there just for money. So it'll need to be the bigger picture and what St Johnstone can bring. Anyway, that's all interesting that Scott Brown might be in between in the dugout against Celtic. Could you imagine that? What's your thoughts on that? Tell me in the comments, because I mean it's all good playing Scott Brown's team in a pre-season friendly. But we've had Lenny in the Hibs dugout. We've had, it's a bit weird, isn't it, when you see your favourite players of bygone times up against you. Anyway, make sure that you jump onto Neil Lennon's page. Jump onto Neil Lennon's page and donate to that, please, if you can. Even if it's only £1, we generally get around about 5,000 people to 8,000 people watching these videos. If everyone was to donate £1, we would take Neil Lennon over the £10,000 mark, and that's what I want to help Neil Lennon do this week before they head off to Spain to do the Camino de Santiago trek, which will be fantastic. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world. Make sure that you join us at 8 p.m. Celtic Park time tonight, where I won't be wearing the Celtic top. I'll just be wearing my normal clothes. It feels a bit like, yeah. Anyway, have a fantastic day wherever you are, Celtic fans all around the world. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the party.